Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Camilla. I'm a trainee solicitor in my first seat of my training contract at a law firm in London. And I thought I'd make this video because I'm coming to the end of my first seat and I'm going to be moving on to my second seat in 2 weeks' time. I'm really excited to try out a new area of law. I'm going to reveal at the end of the video what my second seat is. So if you're interested, then make sure you stick around until the end of the video when I will do a big reveal. But before that, let's get into what I've been doing in my first seat. So my first seat has been commercial property and development. And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't a seat that I requested. At my firm, we get to give our preferences, and then depending on the business need, we will get allocated a seat, hopefully within our preference, but there are no guarantees. So I didn't request any type of property seat just because from my experience at university, I wasn't a huge fan of land law, and I didn't mind real estate on the LPC, but it wasn't an area that was at the top of my list. So I didn't ask for property. However, my first seat was commercial property and development. And I'm quite an open-minded person. I went into it enthusiastically, and I think that's the best thing to do. Even if you get a seat that you're not expecting or that you didn't want, I think it is very important to go into it with a positive attitude and make the most of it, because any experience is good experience in my eyes. Well, I'm sure there are limitations to that. So the first question that I had when I was told that I was going to be in commercial property and development was, what am I going to be doing on a daily basis? I tried to look on Google, and yeah, you get a few lists of typical trainee tasks in real estate, but I would have really valued a video like this with someone sitting down and explaining exactly what we do in commercial property and development. So if you're interested in doing a real estate seat, or you just want to know what I've been doing for the past 6 months, then hopefully this video will be of benefit to you. So what is commercial property and development? Let's start there. Commercial property and development is quite a vast area of law from my experience, but I'll try and kind of condense it down into what I've been dealing with. And from my experience, commercial property and development lawyers deal a lot with the sale and purchase of commercial land. And now that could be offices, that could be warehouses, that could be actually bare land that developers might want to purchase and then develop upon. So they might want to build like a block of flats or different types of properties, perhaps commercial properties on that land. So yeah, we help a lot with the sale and purchase of those types of properties and land. Commercial property lawyers also deal with all aspects of commercial leases, from the granting of leases, re-grant of leases, termination of leases, and all of that involves quite a bit of negotiation usually. So what is a trainee lawyer's role in commercial property and development? So again, I can only speak from my experience. I'm going to talk you through some of the things that I've been doing in my first seat. So I'm going to start with leases. Commercial property lawyers will typically draft and negotiate leases either on behalf of the tenant or on behalf of the landlord in commercial buildings such as shops, offices, warehouses, and all different types of commercial property. My personal experience in relation to leases has been mainly around doing first markups of leases, which means that I read through the lease, look at the terms, and see whether I think that they're favourable to our client or unfavourable to our client, and then I either do track changes or comments in the margins explaining what I think should be negotiated, what I think should be changed, and then that will get sent to my supervisor or whoever's given me the piece of work to do, and then they will look at whether they agree with my points, and then we'll have a discussion about it, and then the lawyer will typically send it to the other side to see whether they are going to accept the changes that we've made or whether there's going to be further negotiations involved. Another task that I've done numerous times is doing lease summaries. Now, a lease summary is a 4 or 5 page document which will summarize the main terms of a lease that the client might be interested in, such as what are their redecoration obligations at the end of the lease, how often do they have to redecorate, those sorts of things that might come up quite regularly in terms of the management of the lease. and I will take those points from the lease. Often you have to cross-reference definitions and clauses and schedules, and we don't necessarily expect clients to have to do that every time they want to check something simple. So what I will do is look at the lease and then put the main points into a 4 or 5 page bullet point summary so that they can easily just have a look at what their obligations are under the lease, or what they need to do to trigger a certain sort of event. And that's been really great experience because you really get to understand how a lease works and all the different sections of the lease and how they interlink to each other. So it's been great experience doing lease summaries. I've done quite a lot of them, and as a result I know my way around a commercial lease quite well now. I've also had experience with drafting ancillary documents to leases, such as license to alter, licenses to assign, occupation licenses. And if we're acting for a landlord who wants to exclude the 1954 Act, then I have also been involved with preparing the statutory declaration. If anyone's done the LPC and has done real estate, then I'm sure you'll be familiar with the 1954 Act. So that was a whistle-stop tour of commercial leases, and I'm now going to talk about the sale and purchase of commercial property and how I've been involved in transactions and what typical trainee tasks are that I've experienced. So in relation to commercial property generally, when we're acting for a buyer, lawyers will carry out due diligence on the property to make sure that, for example, the seller is the legal owner and can legally sell the property to our clients, because that's quite important, as I'm sure you can imagine. We also investigate the title fully just to make sure there aren't any restrictions on the title that would prevent our client from using the property or the land for the purpose that they want to purchase it for. So to give you an example there, if there was a title restriction on the owner of the property being able to use the land for commercial purposes, that would be a problem if our client wants to purchase the land to open a shop on, for example. If they bought the land, put up a shop, and then started selling things, they would be in breach of the restrictive covenant, and then the person with the benefit of the covenant could bring proceedings to enforce the restrictive covenant, and that wouldn't be great for our client, and they could lose out financially if this land that they've bought is worthless. There are often ways around this, but the most important thing is for the lawyer to identify any red flags and then highlight them to the client and then advise them on the potential options. Due diligence also involves tasks such as checking rights of way to make sure that you can actually access the property if it's in the middle of, say, other private land. How is the buyer going to access the land that they're purchasing? And carrying out searches and inquiries, such as highway searches, again to make sure that they're able to access the property, and usually the best way for that is just to check that it abuts a public highway. We also carry out utility searches to make sure that the property has access to running water, drainage, and sewers and things like that. We also carry out flood risk searches, chancel repair liability searches, and many, many more. Again, we're then able to highlight any red flags, and this enables the buyer to consider the risks before exchanging contracts. As a trainee, I've been heavily involved in investigating title and drafting reports on title for many different types of properties. This has been a great experience because the more properties that you see, the more things that you encounter, and the more that you learn. So I've really enjoyed investigating title and drafting reports on title because I've just learned so much, and it's a really good practical way to learn. Yeah, I think it really appeals to my investigative nature. I like researching and I like looking for red flags. So I've really enjoyed doing reports on title, which have been quite a large portion of my work as a trainee solicitor. I've had a little bit of legal research to do, and to be honest, I was dreading getting a legal research task because I didn't really enjoy doing it at uni. I didn't enjoy legal research. I didn't enjoy it on the LPC either, but I think it's always because I found it a little bit pointless. I don't really like mock tasks where you're asked to do something just for the sake of doing it. I found it pointless because it's not a real problem. I'm just trying to solve a fake problem, and I don't really like doing that. I much prefer it when there's a real problem that I'm solving. And I've realized that as a trainee, that because I know that there's a client behind this question and that they want to know whether they can do X, Y, Z with their piece of land, then I have been so much more passionate about carrying out legal research. Yeah, I've very much enjoyed that, and to the point where I actually can't believe that I'm so lucky that I get paid to read cases, because I find them fascinating, especially when they relate to a real problem that you're trying to solve. I've definitely learned something in my training contract that I quite enjoy the research side of it. And yeah, I can't believe I get paid to essentially solve very interesting problems. There are other tasks that I've done, such as applications to land registry, liaising with the other side's lawyers to get documents signed, exchanging and completing contracts over the phone. And there are many other tasks, but I think that I've given you quite a good representation of the tasks that I've done the most on my training contract and the tasks that have taught me the most during my training contract. And honestly, I could not recommend commercial property and development more. You know, like I said at the beginning of the video, it wasn't an area of law that I was interested in, but I very much enjoyed my time as a commercial property lawyer, and I'm excited to move on. But you know, I'm going to have a really great seat to compare the next one to. That's all I'm saying. I've heard a lot of real estate lawyers saying that they enjoy the tangible aspect of property law, and I completely understand what they mean, because for me, when I'm driving now along the road and I see developments, I see types of buildings that I've been working on, I don't know, it just really gives it that tangible aspect, and you think, oh, I know X, Y, Z about this, and it just makes you feel quite knowledgeable as a person about the world around us, which is literally around us. And also, even if you're not interested in doing commercial property or being a commercial property lawyer long term, I think it's a great seat to do if you ever want to own your own property. So for example, when I bought this flat, I instructed solicitors to carry out the conveyancing process, and they would send me documents to read through. So for example, I think I read a report on title, and I remember there being an issue with the roads not being adopted, and I took out an insurance policy to cover that, and I had no idea really what I was agreeing to, and I did feel a bit nervous about it, and I didn't really know what the risks were, and I didn't really understand what I was reading when I was reading the report on title. And so I know that the experience that I've had will enable me to be a much more informed buyer when it comes to buying my next property, and I'm very grateful for that experience. So that was a whistle-stop tour of commercial property and development. I hope you found it interesting learning what I've been doing over the past 6 months. And if you've got any questions about the seat, then please let me know in the comments. And now I'm going to reveal what my next seat on my training contract is going to be. And before I do that, I'll quickly tell you what seats I requested. And that was corporate, restructuring and insolvency, energy, and commercial dispute resolution. And the seat that I was given is restructuring and insolvency, and I think it's a contentious seat, so there's an element of dispute resolution there as well. So I'm very excited to try litigation seat and restructuring and insolvency, because there are two things that were high on my list. So I'm very happy with the seat allocation. I'm going to be documenting everything I'm doing in my next seat on this channel, so make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with all of that. So I think I'll sign off there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please do give me a like, and also consider subscribing. Before you go anywhere, go and check out this video, which is a day in my life as a trainee solicitor in London, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.